All right, let's dive into one of the absolute cornerstones of modern space opera. I.M. Banks' Consider Phlebas. Now, this isn't your typical story about shiny starships and laser battles. No, this book asks a much tougher, much more brutal question. In a war between literal gods, what is a single life even worth? We're going to unpack this incredible story of war, belief, and what it means to be one person caught in a truly cosmic storm.
So the book kicks off with this really haunting line from a T.S. Eliot poem. Consider Phlebas, who was once handsome and tall as you. This is the epigraph, and believe me, it casts a shadow over the entire story. Right from page 1, you're forced to ask, okay, who is this Phlebas guy, and why should I be worried that he was once just like me? It's a warning right from the start.
Okay, so the setting for this whole thing is a massive galaxy-spanning war. But here's the twist. They're not fighting over planets or resources. Not really. This is a war of beliefs. It's a violent, all-out conflict between two totally different ways of looking at the universe itself. And the stakes? Well, the stakes are literally everything.
I mean, just look at the two sides here. You couldn't get more different. On one side, you've got the culture. Think of it as a post-scarcity utopia. Super advanced, benevolent AIs called minds basically run everything, and humans, well, they get to do whatever they want. It's a life of pure indulgence. And on the other side, you have the Idearans. They're these giant, biologically immortal, three-legged warriors who are driven by this incredibly powerful religious faith. They genuinely believe it's their divine mission to conquer the galaxy and impose their version of order on it. So yeah, it's basically a secular paradise versus a holy crusade.
So what's the one thing that kicks this whole story into high gear? It's a single, fugitive culture mind. We're talking a machine with God-level intelligence, and it has escaped and hidden itself on a totally forbidden world. This thing is the ultimate prize, and both the culture and the Adarans will stop at nothing to be the first to find it.
And this is where we meet our main character. He's not from the culture, and he's definitely not an Idearan. He's something different. He's one man caught right in the middle of this giant cosmic war, but he's not just a pawn. He is fighting his own personal crusade. Our guy's name is Bora Horza Gobuchul, and he's what's known as a changer, and that is exactly what it sounds like. He's a shapeshifter. He can change his physical form all the way down to the cellular level. I mean, think about it. He can become anyone, heal from insane injuries, and adapt to pretty much any environment. He is the perfect spy, the ultimate infiltrator.
Okay, so here's the big question, the central mystery of this character. Horza is a humanoid, right? So you'd think he'd be all in with the culture, this utopia literally designed for people like him. So why on earth is he fighting for the religious three-legged Idearans against a society built for his own kind? It doesn't make sense, or does it?
Well, here's the thing. Horza looks at the culture and he doesn't see a paradise. He sees a golden cage. He absolutely despises their reliance on these all-powerful machine minds. To him, life is supposed to be about struggle, about making choices that matter, not about being pampered. He's actually terrified that one day the minds will just look at their human creators and see them as, inefficient pets. So he fights for the adherents, not because he shares their faith, but because he sees them as champions of life. Real, messy, meaningful life. So, driven by this powerful philosophy, Horza takes the job with the Idearans. His mission? Get that mind. But his journey to do it, man, it is anything but simple. It quickly turns into this brutal, chaotic trip through some of the absolute worst parts of the galaxy. Seriously, his path is just one disaster after another. First, he gets captured by this completely dysfunctional mercenary crew on their clunker of a ship, the Clear Air Turbulence. Then he has to make his way to Vavachach, a gigantic ring world that's literally about to be destroyed, just to play a high-stakes game called Damage with a bunch of rich lunatics. And if that's not bad enough, after he barely gets away from that, he gets stranded on an island run by a prophet and his followers, who happen to be cannibals. Yeah, every stop is just crazier and more dangerous than the one before. And the whole time this is happening, he's being hunted, relentlessly pursued by his opposite number from the culture, an agent named Perostek Balveda. She's smart, she's determined, and she basically is the culture personified, everything he hates. She's not just his enemy, though. She kind of becomes his foil, almost like his conscience, constantly dogging his every step.
So after all that chaos, all the running and fighting, every path finally converges on one single place. The endgame, the forbidden planet, where the mind is hidden. Welcome to Shar's world. They call it a planet of the dead for a reason. It's quarantined by this incredibly powerful ancient race called the Drazon, who just don't let anyone touch it. The whole planet is basically a giant tombstone for a civilization that destroyed itself. And deep beneath its frozen surface, in this massive continent-spanning network of old subway tunnels called the command system, that's where the mind is waiting.
The final act is just this intense claustrophobic nightmare. Horza and what's left of his crew go down into those tunnels and immediately find out they're not alone. There's an Idirian squad already there hunting for the exact same thing. What happens next is a crazy, desperate chase on an old subway train careening through the dark. It's a three-way battle. Horza's team, the Idirians, and yeah, Phlebas shows up too. It all comes down to a brutal final fight to the death between Horza and the last Idirian.
And Horza, he does it. He gets what he came for. But as you can probably guess from the title here, this victory, it's not a happy one. It comes at an absolutely devastating cost.
He actually wins the fight. He kills the last Idirian, and he secures the mind. But in that final battle, he gets wounded. And because he's a changer, he has this perfect, intimate understanding of his own body, and he knows instantly. The wound is fatal. He's accomplished his mission, but he is not walking away from this.
So what about his crew? The people who went through all that chaos with him? How many of them made it out? The number of survivors from Horza's mission is 0. Not a single one. And as Horza is lying there dying, who shows up? The culture agent, Phlebas. She's there to collect the mind for the culture. But before he passes, she tells him the truth. One final, absolutely soul-crushing detail. And this is just the ultimate, most brutal twist. The mind that Horza almost died for? It had its own plan all along. It had already made contact with the culture. Phlebas wasn't there to search for the mind. She was just there to pick it up. Which means Horza's entire quest, all the violence, all the people who died, his own death, it was all for nothing, completely and utterly meaningless. The culture had it handled the whole time.
So let's just recap the aftermath, because it is bleak. Horza dies, knowing his mission was pointless. Phlebas, the culture agent, she survives and takes the mind. The big war? It just keeps going. And eventually Horza's entire species, the Changers, gets wiped out. And that mind he died for? Oh, it gets repaired and slotted right back into the culture's network, becoming part of the very thing Horza thought and died to stop.
And that brings us all the way back to the beginning. Back to that quote, "Consider Phlebas." We finally get it. Horza is Phlebas. He was handsome and tall, strong and full of conviction, and in the end, his entire life was just washed away by a war that was infinitely bigger than he was. His story is a monument to how futile one person's struggle can be. And so, that's the question the book leaves you chewing on. In a war fought between gods, when these massive powers are deciding the fate of the galaxy, what is the real value of a single life? What do your choices, your beliefs, your sacrifices, what do they even mean? It's a heavy question, and one that really sticks with you.